Some nights just changed the world, and November 9th, 1989 was absolutely one of them. It was a night when this massive concrete symbol of division, this scar right across a city, it just started to crumble. Not from bombs, but from the sheer force of human hope. So let's dive into the incredible story of how the Berlin Wall fell.
Seriously, just try to imagine it. There's a wall that has defined your entire life. It separates you from your family, from friends, from a whole other world you can literally see but can't ever touch. Now what if, in a single evening, it just opened? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? A total fantasy. But for thousands of Berliners on that one November night, this impossible thought suddenly became their unbelievable reality. The news just crackled across the city, through frantic phone calls and these stunned television reports. But could it actually be real? For a generation raised in the shadow of this concrete monster, the idea of simply walking through it was so alien, so unthinkable, that for a lot of people the first reaction wasn't joy, it was just pure disbelief. And to really get the seismic shock of that night, you have to understand that this thing was never, ever just a wall.
28 years. Just let that sink in for a second. For almost 3 decades, this brutal scar sliced right through a city, a people, and really the heart of the Cold War world.
Because this was never just a simple fence. Oh no. This was the Cold War made concrete. It was the Iron Curtain given a physical, brutal form. And it was designed for one main reason: to keep its own people locked in.
And the human cost of this division, wow, it was just staggering. It wasn't some abstract political line on a map. It was a wall that ran through neighborhoods, through families, through friendships. Imagine not being able to see your own parents or your best friends, even though they lived just a few streets away. This created 2 Germanys, living side by side in profoundly different worlds. So, how does a symbol of such immense, oppressive power just crumble like that? Well, it didn't happen overnight. By 1989, the cracks in the system that built the wall were becoming impossible to ignore. You see, this revolutionary fever was sweeping across Eastern Europe in 1989, and in East Germany, what started as these small protests, they just swelled into massive, peaceful demonstrations. The fear that had kept people silent for decades was just evaporating, and the pressure on the regime was becoming absolutely immense. But the final push, it didn't come from some grand political decision or a military action. No, it came from a mistake, a moment of total confusion in a live press conference.
These are the words that changed everything. So you've got this East German official, Günther Schabowski, who gets handed a note about new travel rules right in the middle of a press conference. When a journalist asks when they take effect, he kind of fumbles with his papers, seems to shrug, and then says the fateful words: "As far as I know, effective immediately without delay." It was a total blunder. He wasn't supposed to announce it yet, but the words were out, broadcast live, and absolutely everyone was listening. And boom, the effect was electric. East Berliners just started streaming towards the checkpoints by the thousands. The border guards were completely stunned. They had no orders, no instructions. And faced with this massive, expectant, but totally peaceful crowd, and with the eyes of the world watching, they made the only choice they could. They opened the gates.
And just like that, the dam broke. What followed was one of the greatest street parties in history. Period.
I mean, in a matter of hours, the entire psychology of the city was rewritten. The constant gnawing fear that had been the backdrop to life for decades, it just vanished, replaced by this explosion of pure, unadulterated joy. And this is maybe the most incredible part of the whole story. This monument to oppression wasn't brought down by bombs or by armies. It was dismantled without a single shot being fired. It was undone by the simple, unstoppable courage of ordinary people who had just had enough.
People climbed onto the wall, champagne was flowing, strangers from east and west were hugging and crying and celebrating together. It was a city reborn, dancing on the grave of its own division.
The takeaway here is just so powerful. The Berlin Wall teaches us that even the most permanent-seeming symbols of division can crumble overnight. It's this profound reminder that history isn't just shaped by governments and armies, but by the collective will of people who are demanding freedom. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What walls in our world today only seem permanent?